Welcome to Talk Maniac. Today we're diving deep into the skies of China, into the People's Liberation Army Air Force, or PLAAF. At first glance, the numbers may seem surprising. China's Air Force is actually smaller today than it was 2 decades ago. But here's the twist. It has never been more powerful, more modern, and more dangerous to its rivals. So how did China trade sheer quantity for cutting-edge quality? And what does this transformation mean for the future of global security, especially as tensions rise over Taiwan and the Pacific? Let's break it down. Back in 2007, the PLAAF was massive, around 400,000 personnel, nearly 2,700 fighters, bombers, and attack aircraft. But most of those planes were outdated. The J-6, J-7, and J-8 jets were essentially upgraded Cold War relics. By modern standards, they were slow, vulnerable, and no match for US or even Russian aircraft. China had numbers, but not quality. And when the country began retiring these older jets in the early 2010s, the fleet actually shrank dramatically. At one point, combat aircraft dropped to just 1,500. It looked like China was weakening. But in reality, Beijing was preparing for a leap forward. Fast forward to 2025, and the picture is completely different. Today, the PLAAF fields about 2,284 combat aircraft, fewer than in 2007, but vastly more capable. Nearly all the obsolete fighters are gone, replaced by modern fourth-generation jets like the J-10 and J-11, as well as the crown jewel, the fifth-generation stealth fighter J-20. What about bombers? Surprisingly, the numbers have stayed nearly the same since 2007, around 220 aircraft. But don't be fooled. The H-6 bomber, originally based on a 1950s Soviet design, has been transformed. Modern variants now have turbofan engines, aerial refueling systems, and the ability to launch long-range cruise missiles. The H-6N can even carry nuclear-capable ballistic missiles derived from the infamous DF-21. That means Chinese bombers can now put US carriers and regional bases at risk without ever leaving Chinese airspace. And looming on the horizon is the mysterious stealth H-20 bomber, expected to give China true global strike capabilities. Here's where the real transformation becomes clear: China's growing fleet of support aircraft. In 2007, airborne early warning systems were experimental. Today, China fields more than 50 of them. Planes that act as eyes in the sky, guiding bombers and fighters during missions. Airlift has expanded too. The Y-20 heavy transport, sometimes called the Chinese C-17, now enables long-range deployments. Roughly 55 of these are in service alongside modernized Y-8 and Y-9 transports, and tanker capacity, once a huge weakness, has improved with the new YY-20A fleet, making regular long-range patrols possible. Still, China's support fleet is small compared to the US. Only about 17% of its air force is made up of tankers, transports, and ISR aircraft, compared to over 30% for the US Air Force. Numbers and machines tell only half the story. In 2015 and 2016, China completely restructured its military. The PLAAF was reorganized under new theater commands, with tactical fighters assigned regionally, while bombers, transports, and airborne troops remained under central control. Then in 2023, the PLA Navy handed over most of its land-based aviation units to the Air Force, consolidating coastal air defense and maritime strike power under one command. This means the PLAAF now isn't just guarding Chinese skies, it's actively preparing to project power over the South and East China Seas. Here's something many analysts got wrong back in 2007. They thought China would forever rely on Russian aircraft to modernize. But today, the opposite is true. While Beijing bought a few Su-30S and Su-35S, the bulk of its modern fleet is domestically made, the J-10, J-11B, and J-20. Even its missile defense systems, once imported from Moscow, are now largely homegrown. The HQ-9, derived from the S-300, is built in massive numbers. Engine technology remains a challenge, but progress has been steady, reducing dependence on Russian suppliers. In other words, China's defense industry is now strong enough to sustain a modern air force on its own. One of the most important shifts has been unmanned systems. The PLAAF now operates high-altitude reconnaissance drones like the WZ-7, medium-altitude BZK-005S, and strike-capable GJ series drones. Combat UAVs are no longer experiments, they're entering real service. China is also experimenting with manned-unmanned teaming, where drones fly alongside piloted fighters, extending their reach and acting as decoys or missile platforms. So what does all this mean? The PLAAF is no longer the defensive, outdated force of 20 years ago. It's now a modernized branch with stealth fighters, missile-carrying bombers, electronic warfare platforms, and drones, all integrated into a single fighting machine. Its focus is clear: deny the US military access to East Asia, deter intervention in Taiwan, and project power over China's near seas. But limitations remain. Support aircraft are still scarce, engine technology lags behind the West. And while China's Air Force is powerful regionally, global power projection remains far off. The next decade will be crucial. Will China invest in massive fleets of sixth-generation fighters? Will the H-20 stealth bomber finally make its debut? Can it build enough tankers, transports, and ISR planes to extend its reach across the Pacific? And above all, will strategic patience hold? Or will rising tensions with the US push China into accelerating its modernization, even at higher cost? One thing is certain: the PLAAF of 2025 is not the same force US planners faced in 2007. It is smaller, yes, but also stealthier, deadlier, and far more capable of challenging America's dominance in the skies. What do you think? Is China's new Air Force already strong enough to deter the United States? Or are its weaknesses still too big to overcome? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching Talk Maniac. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into global power, politics, and strategy.